Becky, if walking away from something you love feels like losing a part of yourself, how do you know when it's actually the beginning?
Yeah, I thought about this. It's actually a great question. I'd actually kind of reframe it a little bit. Like when walking away from something you love feels like losing a part of yourself, it usually means that that thing really did shape you, that it gave you identity, structure, maybe purpose. So the pain isn't a sign that you're making a wrong choice. It's actually
Mm-hmm.
like proof that it mattered, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what you became, what you learned, what you cared about. Like all that doesn't stay behind. It comes with you. It carries with you throughout your next journey. So you're not really losing a part of yourself. You've already become.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love that. I really love that answer. I would have answered it totally differently, but that's why you're here and answering it, not me. Awesome. Well, let's get into it.
Yay.
One time, yes.
All right. Welcome to Sideline Society. I'm Melanie here with my co host, Becky. And Becky is one of my dearest friends. We have known each other for, almost 20 years, I would say, and met. We worked at Outback Steakhouse together. So, Bloomin' Onion, not the Awesome Blossom, just so everybody knows the correct term. And we fell in love with each other ever since and have just been dear, dear friends. So that's Becky to me in my life. And that's why she's here.
That's my little. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So happy to have you. Okay. And this is where we go beyond the scoreboard into the stories and the people that make sports so much more than what you see on the surface. First up, the kickoff, our weekly breakdown of the moments that had the sports world talking. Here's what went down. All right, Becky, you ready for this?
Ready. Hit me.
Okay, just feel yourself imagining this. What does it take to run 253 miles through the Arizona desert with almost no sleep?
Insane. I don't even know.
You
So
can't
much
imagine
to
it?
think
I can't
about.
imagine it. Nothing I could do. Rachel in Trekken, excuse my if I'm saying it wrong, made history at the Cocodona 250, one of the toughest endurance races in the world. The race stretches from Black Canyon City near Phoenix all the way to Flagstaff, with runners battling extreme weather and climbing nearly 12,000 meters over the course of the event. She took the lead early and never gave it back. Okay, just imagine this. She finished in just over 56 hours, setting a new course record. And somehow, while covering more than 250 miles through mountains, rain, and exhaustion, she said she only survived off of a few dirt naps. Like she would take like an 8-minute nap here and then like a 10-minute nap there. It was insanity. And I think she came out beating all the men as well. I think she just kicked ass and took names, but that's a lot of miles. And I'm thinking like 56 hours from now, what I'm doing in between that,
Right.
it's a lot. And it's
Yeah.
not that. It's none of that.
That is
And
so impressive. I would want to know why? What
what was like a
compelled her to
marathon
do
not enough for you that you were just like, let's quadruple it, even more so? I mean, not even quadruple, it's like 10 times.
Yeah, in the desert. Let's do that. Yeah, let's do that.
If I'm going to be in Arizona, I'm going to be in like Scottsdale at a spa or something.
By the pool.
All right. So this week, Chicago Cubs pitcher Matthew Boyd reportedly tore his meniscus in the most unexpected way possible. I feel like I don't know exactly how old he is, but I feel like these are stories we hear with people our age and older. Like you sneeze and your back goes out or something. So he was sitting down to play with his kids at home. 1 minute he was healthy and the next he was headed for surgery. And now his season is on pause. It's one of the reminders that in sports, sometimes it's not the 100-mile-an-hour fastball or the collision at the plate that gets you. It's real life. Have you ever had a moment where you've like walked off a curb and taken your ankle out or anything?
All the time. Yeah. Yeah. I'm super clumsy. I'm well known as like a super clumsy person.
Okay.
So yeah, if I
You can relate.
mhm, and I'm out
Okay.
for like a week, you know?
Yeah. Now he has surgery. And I mean, an Achilles, you never know how much you need your Achilles till you don't have it. So,
Yeah. Do you think he should have lied and came up with like a better story?
yes, yes, absolutely. You were saving someone from being robbed. And I mean, so many, I don't know, maybe this guy doesn't lie. That's
We do. We
yeah,
would have.
exactly.
I would have
No
come up with a
problem
way better
there. All right. At a high school track meet in Florida, Michaela Shavers didn't just win, she launched herself into the record books. The Fleming Island athlete shattered the Florida state record in the triple jump with a leap of 42 feet, 11 and a half inches. The best jump in the country this year and one of the top 25 jumps ever by a U.S. high school girl. The girls' triple jump state meet record, that was a lot to say, had remained on the books for 21 years. So she just broke it 21 years later. She also finished runner-up in the long jump, turning the state championships into her own highlight reel. I can say I did the long jump in high school, maybe, or I don't know, like 5 years ago. And it that is really hard. You have to do, I mean, there's tape that you have to do, and you kind of have to work your way backwards. So the triple jump, that feels like I would just like take an ankle out as I'm like going from one jump to the next jump to then get to where you need to be.
So it's like a continuous, this is the one where you jump into the sand, right?
Correct.
Okay. So
Yeah.
you would just like continuously hop 3 times?
Yeah. Yep. And then you shoot. Whereas just like the long jump is like you just run and then you get to, you can't, before a certain line and then you shoot yourself there. But triple jump, it's, you're going like 1 step and then 2 step. And then I think on the third you jump.
Oh, yeah. I have seen that. Okay.
Yeah. So congratulations to her.
What was your jump when you did it? Like like what's an average person?
I mean, I'm not your average person, so I really can't compare to most people.
I think you're above average, but okay.
I mean, I didn't win any medals or anything for mine, so I must say I probably wasn't anywhere close to that. Yeah. So, we'll no breaking records on my side here. Okay. In what could have been the final at bat of her college career, Creighton catcher Lily West stepped to the plate and made history with a single against UConn in the Big East softball tournament. West recorded her 200th career hit, breaking a program record that had stood since 1997. But the moment was bigger than just one swing. West has started every game of her Creighton career, built one of the most consistent runs in program history, and helped push the Blue Jays into another conference title
Title what?
Yeah. Boy, I'm totally sober too, so this makes it special. After years of falling just short, Creighton kept its season alive, and their leader delivered the biggest hit of all at exactly the right time. You played softball, correct? A little bit, dabbled?
Yeah, for about 7 years growing up.
Yeah. What, tell me a little bit. I don't know enough about softball. I can't play it for anything. So I think first going to college and playing every single game is quite an accomplishment in and of itself. And then what was your position?
I mean, I was young, so they kind of just put me wherever. I did second base, shortstop, pitcher for a long time. Yeah, mostly that.
Yeah.
Ended my career at pitching at the mound.
I was always, and this was just like adult league. What would you say is the worst? I say the worst, and I hope I don't offend anyone, is if you're putting someone who's terrible, where would you put them?
Right field.
Okay. So I wasn't that bad. I was always put at, oh boy, what's it called?
Point.
You're at home plate catcher.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. Yeah, but I would never catch the ball because I was so deathly afraid of softball being thrown at me. So I was like, I'm not going to catch it. So I'm just going to let it fly by me and then I'll grab it if I need to.
How'd that work out for you?
I mean, they kept inviting me back. I think it was because I just connected with the umpire, and so we needed an up, and my bubbly personality was the reason why. I'm pretty sure. Not my amazing softball skills. So, I can't be perfect at everything.
Usually you stick the, the less experienced person in right field because
Okay.
it's very, the ball rarely goes out there
Yeah.
unless it's a left-handed hitter.
Mm-hmm.
They might hit it out there, but
That's few and far between. Well, I can
Mhm.
tell you, I wouldn't even be trying to catch the ball there either. It's yeah, that's not going to happen in my life. Okay. I'm just making sure I got through everything that I needed to.
What about
Okay.
the horse the coach for Golden Tempo, the first woman to,
Oh,
win
yeah. Wasn't that
the
amazing?
Kentucky Derby? That was pretty cool.
Yeah. I thought it was such an exciting race, and I went to the Kentucky Derby a few years ago, and we had a wild experience because we were in this box and there was 5 of us ladies, and there was one seat open, and this woman took the seat, and we were chatting with her, and she was saying that she is a part of a group of people who go in on being the owners of a horse.
Mm.
Um, and she told us the horse, and she was like, I've spent so much money and I took all this time off to come here. And she was just very excited and very humble and very nice. Long story short, the race happens and her horse was the one that won.
No way.
Yeah.
How exciting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's
she was like,
crazy.
"Oh my gosh, I can pay off my debts now." And she was like a celebrity. People were coming over and taking pictures with her. I mean, we were like her bodyguards because everyone just kept coming over and talking to her. It was wild. But I would highly recommend going once in your life, for sure.
An amazing time,
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, it was great.
especially this past one. I would have loved to have been there.
Oh my gosh. Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely. Well, the funny thing is that we were at a derby party and my husband had said, because everyone got to bet on the horses, and he said, "Oh, there's this one horse that has the first woman trainer." So he put the bet into hers, and because we have 2 daughters, so we're all about girl power in my house. He's, sorry, dude. And so I mean, and she won. So I think we won like $150.
amazing.
I mean, I feel like I'm just really the Kentucky Derby's kind of my thing. Like wherever
Yeah.
I go, it kind of works out for people.
Let's go then. Let's do it.
I say that, but don't tell me to pick
I know.
anything. I don't want anybody losing money on my account at all. Okay, so before we get to our guest, we've got Flag on the Play, where we call it like we see it. So my flag on the play is about Real Madrid. I don't know if you've heard anything about Real Madrid, the soccer team, football team. It is, excuse my language, it's a shit show over there. They just played Barcelona for La Liga. Barcelona won 2-0, and that's not even the long and short of it. There was a fight between 2 of the teammates, a physical fight. It started off kind of as a confrontation at one point, and then at another point, it turned into a physical fight. There's accusations of leaks and a mole inside the club. I don't know what a mole in a club would do or what information they might have, but apparently there's a mole in the club. And then there's Mbappe, who is probably one of the best players in the world. He plays for France. And there is a petition that has been going around that they have gotten millions of signatures calling for the club to sell him after he was seen vacationing in Sardinia while Madrid crashed out of the Champions League. And I think it's a new lady in his life. I could be wrong, but I'm kind of in the know about some things. So I think it's definitely when I've seen this as far as World Cup goes when England had a bunch of really good players, but there's not really a lot of chemistry. So that seems to be the case, that it's just a lot of chaos going on. There's a lot of really good players, a lot of divas, and they are now just going down in a ball of flames. So we already talked. Okay, I already talked about this. I can't even remember, but this keeps coming up, and I just wish we could get the whole full story. So the whole thing with Mike Vrabel, the Patriots head coach, and Diana. Gosh, it ends with an I. Mersini, something like that. There was a whole scandal that came out that they were having an affair, and all these pictures came out. And there was 5 years ago, there was talk of her getting pregnant, naming her son Michael. And then now another picture has come out of her at the lake with him pregnant. So I mean, I don't even know what's going on, but they have literally been together for 5+ years. And I'm just so curious. Did the wife know? Did his wife know? Did her husband know? I mean, 5 or 6 years of, I mean, I guess she travels a lot and so does he, but I mean, and where are these pictures coming from and why are they just now coming out? That's why I am so curious as to why. But then like, why did she lose her job and he hasn't? Is it because she's a reporter?
Yeah.
And he is not. I don't know. Have you heard anything about this story?
I have not really been following that story. I mean, I'm familiar with it. I've heard about it, but I haven't been following it a lot. Yeah, I have the same questions you do. Like, how does this thing was hidden for 5 years? And there must be a mole inside their circle.
Moles everywhere.
Because I mean, it's out now if she's, pregnant.
Yeah. Well, she was pregnant. This was pictures 5 years ago when she was pregnant. So, but that was 5 years ago. And then there was a picture from, I don't know, 6 years ago or what have you. And then pictures just now that came out where they're, I think, in Arizona. And yeah, I'd like to know who's leaking these pictures and why the timing feels right. I don't know. I wonder if it's like an opposing team from the Patriots.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the mole. Maybe the mole is from an opposing team.
Yeah. Who's like the Patriots rival?
Every
It could be anyone. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, so I don't know. To be continued. I feel like this is just going to continue to be talked about forever and ever and ever.
Right. And it does suck that the woman, she was the one who lost her job, no consequences for him, at least from what we see.
Right. Correct. Who knows what consequences his wife is bringing down.
Right.
Hopefully.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry you lost your notes for your flag on the play, but I'm glad that I'm in the know and I got this. So, all right. Now that the flags have been thrown, let's get to the good stuff. My guest today is Kady Pooler, a former professional tennis player, national champion, and now founder of Pickle Athletics. Her journey goes beyond competition, focusing on reinvention, community, and building something meaningful after sport. Here's our conversation. Today's guest is a former professional tennis player, national champion, educator, and now visionary founder. Kady Pooler has built her life at the intersection of competition, leadership, and community. From climbing to number 4 in the nation in doubles to creating Pickle Athletics, a modern social club redefining how we gather through sport, Kady's story is one of reinvention, resilience, and purpose. Hi, Kady.
Hi, that was amazing. That might have been my best intro ever.
Thank you. Thank you. Man, I don't think anyone's ever complimented me like that. I'm going to take that in.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
It's my pleasure.
All right. So I'm going to start off with an icebreaker question. So you've competed at the highest level, but what's something you're surprisingly not good at? And it doesn't have to be sports related.
Yeah, it's funny because I feel like I just was talking about this with somebody yesterday. But marketing, that's something that comes to mind. Obviously, running a business now, I'm learning all the different kind of gaps that I have. And I was in sales. That's kind of the irony. And I think I was one of those salespeople that kind of was like, what does marketing even really do? And now I realize exactly the value they bring and how they're two totally different skill sets, and that it is something I definitely need to improve upon.
Nice. Okay. Awesome. Okay. Well, I would love if you could kind of just start your story and start wherever you feel kind of tennis inspired you and who inspired you, and we'll just take it from there.
Okay. Goodness. I mean, yeah, sometimes it could be as long as the stories we want to make it, but I'll try to give you the abbreviated version. So apparently it goes back to my dad. He was like a jack of all trades jock athlete, was always going to like pick up basketball, playing golf, doing something sporty. And my parents had separated when I was really young. And so it was his day to watch me. And he had a tea time to make. So the story I was told is that basically he went into the golf clubhouse and was like, what can my daughter do while I go out and play? They were like, well, we have a tennis camp. He was like, great, put her in that. And so apparently at 4 years old, I liked it. I don't know. I obviously don't remember. And then what I do remember is, kind of playing just a little bit with my dad. He was also a tennis player. And then at the age of 7 is when I started to take it pretty seriously. And I think maybe it was 7. Maybe actually it had to be 7 because I think it was an 800 tournament. The local pro at the club started to tell my parents, oh, I think Kady has some potential and, I'd like to give her private lessons. And my mom's reaction was basically like, oh, he just wants our money. Like, she doesn't need private lessons. I don't know if, kind of what's there. And so she signed me up for a tournament that was in Fallbrook where my grandma lived. So I think it was like, cool, we'll go see grandma, Kady will do this tournament. And then I had won the tournament. So I think that was the first time where it was kind of like, oh, maybe she does, there is something here. She does have some potential. And then kind of, gosh, the rest feels like, the rest is history. At 10, I was already playing every single day. I think that was like the age I was already sponsored. So I was sponsored by Prince Rackets, Prince Clothing, traveling for tournaments. And I think kind of already at that age was when I had a goal of like, I wanted to be a professional tennis player. And at that point, I really idolized Steffi Graf. That was like who I wanted to be. In some senses, kind of modeled my game a little bit after hers, but more so just her like demeanor, composure, and just the fact that she was a champion. So yeah, and then from there, was one of the top players in the country throughout my junior tennis. I ended up going to Arizona State, played obviously competitively there, won a national All-American championship my junior year. And then pretty much the day after I graduated, I actually didn't even go to my graduation. I did not go to graduation because I went to my first pro tournament.
Wow.
And that first tournament was in Portugal. And so I just remember, I had my suitcase and my bag and I flew to Portugal. And that was kind of the start of the professional career where I got to go and play for about a year and a half. And then I took some time off to help my dad and my sister with some stuff. And then I actually went back on tour for another year. Yeah.
That's amazing. So going to Portugal was kind of your graduation present.
Yeah, exactly.
That sounds amazing.
It is. I mean, one of the things that I really look back on fondly where I'm so grateful to tennis just because, and like, we'll probably get into this, but like both sides of my family has some struggles and a lot of like addiction struggles. And I really do often look back on that. And I think if I didn't have tennis, like how easily I could have gone down another path. And so I just am very grateful to the sport that it provided me so many amazing memories, experiences, life skills, but also like the people that I got to meet along the way who are still very influential, somehow in my life. But also too, I just think like how cool, being in your early 20s and I got to travel the world and really some amazing experiences that I don't think I would have been gifted if it wasn't for the sport.
Yeah. Do you feel that because of your family's history that you kind of, the people surrounding you, coaches, were kind of like a second family to you, helping give you structure and guidance?
I think so. And it obviously depends on the people, but I also have like in some ways some bones to pick there too, because I think a lot of times when you are that young superstar athlete, you're kind of only actually viewed in that lens versus like the holistic person and like maybe what you might be feeling. And I don't know, you're a young kid. And so there's a lot of just like things that are going on in life outside of your sport. But then also like, yes. And I think like my dad was a big one of those. He was the one, like I said, who got me into the sport, but he was also the one who really like took me to all my practices, signed me up for the tournaments, took me to the tournaments. And my mom was, she was a self-made entrepreneur and working really, really hard to be able to support the family. And so she was kind of the one who helped me to be able to go and do these, the lessons and the tournaments. And so, and obviously it's my mom and dad, so that kind of makes sense. And then outside of that, I had a couple coaches that definitely invested in me and, even took me to some tournaments when obviously they didn't have to. Yeah, I think teachers along the way, just being supportive and knowing, okay, she has a chance of going to college and going to college for free. And like, I had the tennis skills, but just making sure I had the grades. And so, yeah, it definitely takes a team for sure.
Yeah, a village for sure. If we were to rewind to 10-year-old Kady, what did you love most about tennis?
I mean, competition. I think I was always a really competitive kid. My mom loves to tell stories about me even playing board games and just like having to win and getting pissed off if I didn't. And I do have some memories of that. So I think just being able to compete, right? Like going out and kind of like fighting and scrapping and at the end of the match, like kind of just getting to like have outworked someone or outwitted them. So I think the competition was probably the big thing. And then if I'm being really honest, it was probably also, the recognition, right? It's like, again, okay, you're saying 10-year-old Kady at that point, as I mentioned, like I'm already kind of one of the top players in, the state of California. I don't even know if I was playing nationals at that time, but it was already like, you go to school and it's kind of like, oh yeah, wow, she's like a tennis star, or, even maybe the way that my parents talked about me and introduced me or how other people viewed me. And that can feel good, even as an adult, right? Like we would like to be praised. So I think as a young kid, there's that as well. And then it kind of builds into where you're like, oh, I'm being seen for this. So, I think there's a few different aspects there.
Do you feel at any point, because you were so young, did any of it feel isolating? Was it hard to relate to people?
So I think two parts there in terms of isolating. I don't know. It's a good question. I never really thought about that. I mean, I definitely in some ways like had a different childhood than some of my peers. I definitely in high school was like not really going out, going to parties, but I also like very much wanted to be normal in that like I very much could have gone to a lot of the tennis academies where, again, a lot of my peers were going and training and being able to train all day long. I did not want to do that. Like I was very clear on that to my parents as well. Like I wanted to go to a regular high school. I wanted to go to my homecoming dances and like have my friends. And so I very much did that. And I think, I was a social kid, but at the same time, like I left school early every day to go to practice, so usually it was like my dad picked me up. I had lunch in the car, and then it was pretty much tennis from like 1 till 6 or 7 before going home, eating dinner, showering, and kind of going to bed. I didn't like homework kind of fit in there sometimes somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, it wasn't isolating in that like I felt alone, but I definitely was living a different kind of life than my peers.
What's something about junior tennis culture that parents and young players should better understand?
I mean, okay, so again, there's the reality, and then I think there's like, what? I mean, the reality is it's like very intense. And this is where it's like my wife and we had a conversation maybe a year ago, and I was like, I don't want my kids to play tennis. I like selfishly, I don't want to relive junior tennis. It's just very demanding. It's like, to be a good tennis player, I guess it's like any sport, but you're playing every day, many hours, and then you're traveling to tournaments. Tournaments are like every single weekend, everywhere. And yeah, the parents can get very intense, as if, you have these 10-year-olds out there as if it's like their life depends on it. So I have like a little bit of, I think, just trauma around that. And I had mentioned to her, I don't want the kids to play tennis. And then she was like, it'd kind of be a shame if like our kids don't know how to play a basic level of tennis. So I don't know. There's like conversations going on there, but yeah, I think that understand that it is competitive, but also at like the end of the day, I think what a lot of folks maybe are missing is like they are kids. And for me, it should really be, especially at that age, like I have no problem with getting deep into competition and like having large goals. And if kids want to play professional sport, like I am all for that. But I think at a young age, it's just more about foundation of like not only the skill set, but like your body, right? Especially at like 10, you have not yet hit puberty. Like you haven't actually grown into your body yet, or like really developed muscles. And so like there's certain things that you can do to also just like mess up your body at that age. And like definitely in terms of your psyche, again, like in terms of like how do you view yourself? So like the lens that like the kid is viewing themselves through shouldn't just be all on them being an athlete.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah. I think the mental aspect too, because they're still trying to figure out who they are, especially at such a young age. And so having a foundation to help them build in a positive way and having the confidence in themselves. Because I feel like with sports, a lot of it is mental, almost more so than the physical part.
100%.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot for the kids, and also the parents have to understand that it's a lot of money. It's a lot of sacrifice as a parent. I mean, you're giving up your weekends, you're giving up your evenings and everything. And I think that, it sounds all fine and dandy when you're 7 and you're twiddling around and, going and hanging out. But then once you get to a certain level, it's a huge commitment.
Huge. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. For listeners who don't follow college tennis, what makes it such a unique competitive environment?
Yeah, I think tennis is like a very interesting college sport because it is an individual sport. And so even like at the college level, you are still competing individually, right? It's not like all, 10 of you are on the same court at the same time and like playing. But yet at the same time, like your match counts for the team. So, I think it's still the same today, but there's basically 3 doubles matches that start off. The college that wins 2 out of those 3 gets 1 point for the team. Then there's 6 singles matches, and each one of those counts as 1 point for the team. So there's basically 7 points total, and a match can end up at 4-3. So yeah, it's, I think, unique and kind of like nothing like it. I guess maybe swimming is the only other thing that I can kind of equate, or I guess golf as well. But yeah, it's also interesting too because in some ways you're competing with your teammates, right? You want to play in maybe the number 1 slot. You want to get to number 1 singles. And so during the week and the months that you're practicing, you're kind of pitted up against each other, and it's like, who's the best player? And that's the person who's going to go and kind of represent the team at the top spot.
Yeah.
So, you want your teammates to get better, yes. And at the same time, you're also like trying to get better than them. So that way you can play at the top spot.
And then how is that during the week and when you're done and you're like, hey, Sally, great job. Let's go travel or let's go hang out. Does that rest on the coach to kind of say, hey, yeah, you're competing against each other, but in the end, you're ultimately teammates?
And I think that's where, like, coaching to me is such an underestimated skill, right? Especially, and it starts kind of at young ages where it's like, who can coach? Like, which parent can coach the team? And it's kind of like, okay, but like a coach has a huge impact, and I mean that's from every level, and that's why you see even the top players in the world still have coaches because. What impact and what value are they bringing? At that point, it's no longer about like you hold your racket like this, it's probably about the mindset and like making sure they're ready to go every single day and like helping with those small things that make a difference.
Yeah.
At the young age, it's not even small things that make a difference, it's big things. Yes. And that's where, I think that I wish my coach would have done a little bit better because it's very sad. I get a little bit jealous, to be honest, where like a lot of my friends who also played college tennis, but other college sports, they're still very good friends with their teammates, like sisters, and going to their weddings and like still hanging out or having reunions. And I don't really talk to anybody from my team. And that makes me sad. And I part of me when I reflect on it is because I do think, and it was interesting too, we came in with 5 freshmen on a team of 9 or 10.
Wow.
So half the team is freshmen. And as I mentioned, it's already kind of competitive, but now we're like all the same grade. And my coach wasn't really shy, to be honest, about kind of telling us, hey, it's like, you got to rise. So we were definitely, in college, we were friendly. We all hung out. We all went to parties together. There was no real issues there. But I think being able to develop that deep, deep bond off court where, again, now it's like, are we still, talking to each other? It unfortunately wasn't really fostered.
Yeah, where your win is their win. And I think for women, I can't speak on men, obviously, but for women, I feel like that can be hard. And so to try to really work through that and make it, of course, everybody wants to win, you want to win. But if you don't, you want to see your teammates win. You want to see them move forward and everything. So yeah, well, I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's just more of it's a reflection that I have. And then it's hopefully something where I'm like, okay, I can help to look out for this for like my kids or, I don't know if I was a college coach for a little bit. And so it was like something that I also tried to, it's like, just like parenting, right? We kind of have our parents and you're like, I didn't really like how they did that. So I'm going to like try to adjust.
Yeah. Yeah. You make mistakes and then hopefully you don't make them again as a parent. But, so you helped bring a national championship to Arizona State. What do people not see about the grind behind a title like that?
I mean, yeah, it's like if you know, and if you don't, you don't. I mean, it's just, especially in college. And I was in some ways a little different. I am a very structured person and I like structure and routine and like processes. So for me, I think I look back sometimes at my college self and I'm like, God, where did she go? I knew that back to where I was just so disciplined and dialed in. Every single night before bed, I would take out a piece of paper and I would literally write down from the very morning. So it would be like 5 a.m., wake up. 5:05, eat breakfast. And then I would list out like what was I going to eat for breakfast? Okay, eggs, oatmeal. 6 o'clock, weights. And so that was maybe that was a team time that we had 6 a.m. weights, which was often 3 times a week at 6 a.m. It sometimes would flip, but then if we didn't have team events, I was still doing stuff on my own. So maybe I was talking to the strength and conditioning coach and asking when can I come in for individual sessions. That might have been 5 a.m., maybe 6 a.m., maybe 6 p.m. I was doing like Bikram hot yoga before it was even a thing when I was in college. And this was on top of our 3-hour long practice. You also had to have, I don't know if it was 1 or 2, but you had to have an individual lesson during the week. And then you have your study hall, you actually have your classes. And so, yeah, I was still finding time to go and do extra things. CrossFit, before CrossFit was even really called CrossFit. There was a trainer across the street, and I found this guy, and he was like helping me, with mobility and teaching me about the mechanics of like your foot and how that impacts a lot of things in your body. So it's incessant. It's literally or obsessive. It's a 24-hour a day obsession where you wake up like, how do I get better today? How do I get faster? How do I get stronger? And when you even asked the question, I just kind of laughed because I remember it was probably like 2 weeks before we were doing a track workout. And I remember my coach kind of like not yelling, but like yelling at me and like saying something along like, how are you going to be an All-American? Like if you're running like that, or like something, I don't know what it was. There's just this little thing. And I remember when we had won and like kind of being able to claim, okay, we won this, national championship, like this All-American national championship, that kind of coming back and kind of being like, aha, like I did it.
That's how.
Yeah. And it's just, everything, like when I say everything, it's just like, even like, diet, right? Where it's like, I was pretty disciplined throughout my childhood, even in college, where it was just like, I didn't really eat a lot of desserts. I wouldn't eat fried foods. I've like always been pretty strict on like, okay, eating only organic foods. If it wasn't about that, then I was studying something along that, looking into diet optimization or exercise. So it's just, yeah, what does it take? It is a grind. It's just, it's nonstop and maybe even obsessive.
Yeah. Was there ever a time where you were like, I'll have a cheeseburger, please?
And I think from there too, because like you're a kid and it's like, and I know a lot at that point it's kind of like, oh, I deserved it. But it definitely was intentional to where it was like, oh, I can't eat a cheeseburger every day, so for sure. And it's not like it was like a cheat meal. I didn't view it as that as much as just kind of like, yeah, I want a cheeseburger.
Yeah.
Like I'm gonna have it. But I think just really intentionally deep down knowing like how I feel my body is how I'm going to perform.
Yeah. It's kind of interesting based on how a lot of people grow up and their backgrounds and accessibility to food or knowledge about food and kind of how they go through that process of high school and then into college. And if you don't have anybody there to kind of help guide you of what nowadays, everything has protein in it. It's protein is a huge word these days, where obviously kind of back then, but Starbucks cold foam has protein in it. And it seems to be such a thing that I think there's over too much information where I think just, did you have access to that? Do they provide that at the college level, or are they just kind of like, just good luck?
Probably a combo of all the above. Like, yes, we live in an era of overabundance of information, right? You can go to ChatGPT and be like, write me out a meal plan that's high protein, but it's like, we're constantly getting all these inputs all day long. And so I don't know. It's like, obviously we didn't have that when I was in college, but yes, there was nutritionists available. But again, for me, it wasn't, there was like I had met with her. There wasn't anything like revolutionary, right? It's like, and it's kind of how I still live my life today. It's just like, we all know what's healthy and what's not. And I think for me too, anything that's like highly processed, so maybe it has 20 grams of protein, but if you also look at the labels and there's like 25 chemicals in there, probably not good for you.
Yeah.
And so for me, it's just about like simplicity, and like, I don't know. I think like not overthinking things. And so I think that's just kind of moderation. Yeah. And again, like I was working out a lot. So I knew, okay, that's like, I know about the window after working out where you have kind of this 30-minute window to like get protein in. So like, yes, at school we had a fridge filled with different, at that point it was like muscle milk, whatever. And so I would be diligent about, okay, finish my workout. I just lifted for an hour. Now I need to get some protein in. Or maybe it was just like literally I brought some grilled chicken with me and now I'm going to eat that. So there were certain things that I was definitely doing. I think sure that people helped to teach me. But I also just, like I said, when from the obsessiveness, from a young age, I remember just like my mom, a big thing that we used to do was go to Barnes and Noble. And like my siblings and I, we got to pick out, 1 or 2 books. And if we were really convincing, we could get like 3. And I just loved that. And it was so interesting because even as a young kid, like I've always only read nonfiction, and it's always been basically like books on how to get better, you know? I think it's just also something kind of innate. And I remember, you know, being at a young age and it was just like actually getting books on nutrition. And so it wasn't necessarily as much as like, oh, I had this nutritionist, or like these people really like put this into me. I think it was self-seeking of information and wanting the knowledge. And then also to your point that you started with is like, I'm pretty fortunate in that my mom also was kind of like healthy before it was really a thing, in terms of, again, like I kind of grew up in a house where like we never had sugary cereals. We didn't have any sodas. And like my mom made pretty much like a home cooked meal every single night.
It's amazing.
So yeah, I think it's just also it was in my environment. I was really lucky.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that, because there's certainly so many people who don't have access to that. So it's interesting seeing then on the other side how people come into high school and everything and how they handle that, and hopefully then in college having that access, which is kind of nice to have. As a team captain, how did you lead differently than you played?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first thing is kind of that like selflessness, right? If you are the captain and it's like you're the one leading the team, as we mentioned with kind of tennis and how it's structured, right? Where it's like you lose your match, but everyone else wins, the team still wins, vice versa. And so I think a lot of it is really just like you're having to put your own wins and losses aside. And the moment you're done with your match, regardless of the outcome, it's like you are going to one of your teammates' courts and you are there and you're truly, truly supporting them and like wanting them to win. And so I think it was just in that, and like really trying to get behind all the girls' backs and like trying to let them know, hey, I care for you. And like, again, regardless of how I do, I want you to do well.
Yeah.
And then there's just also like fostering of stuff off the court, you know, so trying to like put together team hangouts or even like individual stuff. I try to do a good job of reaching out to like all my teammates, even the ones who maybe I didn't love like sitting down one-on-one with. Maybe I couldn't find a lot of connections, but like, hey, you want to go to breakfast tomorrow? Let's do lunch. And so that way you can get that time, because one-on-one is really where you're going to get to like develop those bonds and get to know somebody. And with tennis, like most, and it's still like this today, a lot of the players are international. Like on my team, I think there was only 2 or 3, maybe 1 year, 4 Americans at like any given time. Other than that, we had a lot of international girls. And so you're just kind of getting to know each other and trying to learn about their culture or history.
Yeah. That's awesome. What would you say differentiates your style or American style? Is there a style to tennis? Is there like an American style and then an international style based on the country?
You know, and I don't know, people even listening to this or other people might, you know, disagree or have more insights. But I think the difference is like in America, we pretty much grew up playing only on hard court. And so I think you kind of tend to develop, you could at least maybe a little bit more of like an aggressive game. The reason I also is like, I feel like the game has also very much become rally from the baseline. I myself like always look to come to the net, but I'm also, you know, 6 feet tall and like I have a good long wingspan, and I'm just a little bit more aggressive in style and personality. So it's not to say like, oh, all Americans play that way, but we do grow up playing on hard court where the game's a little bit faster. And then in Europe, they pretty much tend to play only on clay. And so on the clay court, it is a kind of a slower game, right? The points really take longer to develop. They tend to last a little bit longer. It's definitely more baseline driven. Tends to even be maybe some like loopier, heavier balls. So without like bucketing, oh, all Europeans play this way, all Americans play this way. Right. There is a difference in how we grow up and train. Definitely will relate over to the style.
Yeah. Okay. I had no idea that was even a thing. So there we go. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What would you say when you played singles, you played doubles? What was the point where you wanted to transition from one to the other?
Yeah. And to be honest, I don't even know if there was ever really like a transition, because so growing up in junior tennis, it's pretty much singles dominant. Like you are playing singles, and every now and then there's like a tournament that has doubles. And again, maybe things have changed since I was 12 years old, but that's kind of how it was. But even then I loved playing doubles because I have a teammate. I have somebody else on the court with me. And it's like, now we actually really truly have a shared like interest in this outcome. And I'm just I'm like verbal thinker, and I'm kind of social. And so it was just nice to have someone to like talk to and laugh with and get pumped up with. So I think even from a young age, I really enjoyed doubles, and I had great results in doubles. And then, yeah, in college, you know, it's very much like a thing, because again, we talked about you get a whole point for the team off of that, and there's 3 matches. So I played number 1 doubles since my freshman year. I think I came in just with a little more experience, and again, I love net play. And then when I played professionally, each tournament has singles and doubles, but again, there's more money in singles, significantly more money in singles. So you kind of have to play the singles to like earn some prize money to help subsidize the cost of that tournament. But my results were always better in doubles. I think I won, we have to fact check it. I think I won 4 professional tournaments in doubles. And like the best I'd ever done in one of the singles was like a quarterfinals. Yeah. So it's like, I just have a strong preference, I think, for having a teammate and just the general style of doubles.
So can you explain for those people, including myself, the difference between playing singles and then playing doubles?
Like in terms of style?
Yeah, I guess because you're having to share such a tiny court with somebody. And so it's how important is having a teammate that a good line of communication. And I know nothing about doubles. So like I'm in the front and you're in the back, or do we switch, or how?
I mean, I think there's a pretty like straight up way that you approach doubles, and right in that it's like, yes, you're kind of both on one side, and then it's like in terms of staying up, staying back. I mean, these days it's funny because I do see in doubles where it's like the 2 players who start back are staying back and basically like rallying across court. In my opinion, that's like not great doubles or very fun to watch. I come from like, I'm just like the old school day where it's like serve and volley. And so for me, that's kind of like one difference. Like in doubles, I think 90% of the time, if you're the server, you should be, following that serve to the net, because I think it's the team who gets to the net first. And so that's kind of like, even when I coach or, that's my thinking. It's like the team that gets to the net first is essentially going to win the point. And it's just much more fast paced. Again, if we're talking about singles, especially these days, it's 2 people on the baseline where it's just this long rally and the point really building. In doubles, it's, yes, there's longer points, but it's kind of like 4 or 5 shots. And I think it is not more strategical. It's definitely not more strategical, but it's a different kind of strategy. And again, that like, yes, you have 2 players, so you're playing a little bit of different angles. I like to think kind of like 1 or 2 shots ahead in terms of like, if I serve out wide, that return from the deuce side, that return's most likely going to come through like the middle. So, my partner hopefully can be able to take that poach or get that volley. In that case, like I have to be prepared if they are making a full poach to maybe come and cover on their side. So now I'm like coming to the net off the ad side versus coming in on the deuce side. So yeah, it's just a faster pace, definitely more aggressive style. I think the team who gets to the net first should be the team that pretty much wins.
Okay. Can you explain getting to the net first, just meaning like I serve and I sprint to the net?
Yeah, okay. Literally. But like that's drills that I used to do when I was a kid, where it's like literally serve and then sprint to the net, touch the net, and then like kind of backpedal back. And this is also conditioning, but again, serve, sprint. But yeah, it's because you only have the amount of time to run to the net before your opponent is making contact with the ball and it's coming back to you.
Okay.
And so there's this kind of like rule, right, where it's like you're going to run and cover as much ground as you can, but as soon as your opponent starts to make contact with that ball, you're basically doing your split step to react to wherever that next ball is. And so if you are only to cover 2 feet and now you're having to split step, but you're stuck in what we call no man's land, which is like the middle of the court.
Okay.
That's going to be very tough, because depending on the ball, you're maybe digging something off of your feet, or like now, because I'm still far back, the court still is like the whole court. So now I have a lot more to cover, versus if I can close in on that court becomes a little smaller, because now I'm probably able to take something out of the air and reach it within my wingspan.
Got it. Well, apparently you have a large wingspan.
Yeah. I mean, for a woman, I think, yeah, which is, again, great. It was conducive to my, my style of play.
Yeah, I love that. How do you find a partner? Is it during college? Do they kind of just match you with whoever wants to do it? And talk about kind of the trust level. Do you play then professionally and you find a partner and you stay with them and you've got this trust and this bond?
Funny. So yeah, so in college, they definitely just kind of partner you up. Maybe you can offer insights to the coach of like, I like to play with so-and-so like more, but at the end of the day, they're partnering you up. And I think like they've always done a good job of being able to, for me, like kind of match my style. Like I tend to personally, because again, I like to play net and I like to be pretty aggressive and I poach and move a lot. I really did well with players that were actually a little more solid from the baseline. So someone who had a very solid return that I knew could like consistently get that shot, you know, back across court or maybe down the line wherever we asked it to go, but could definitely be from the baseline and rally for a little bit. So that way I had a chance to insert myself and kind of close it off with a volley. And so freshman year, I played pretty much in the beginning of the season before you go to what's called like your dual season, where you're really competing team versus team against other colleges. It's a little bit more individual, where you have tournaments and you are just competing individually. And so during those tournaments, you're definitely mixing it up a lot more, because I think obviously, right, the coaches are trying to see who gels with who, what results come. But for the most part, like I played with the same partner pretty much my freshman and sophomore year. And then she graduated. And then we actually had a transfer come in, Roxanne, that's who I ended up winning that title with. And then we played pretty much our junior and senior year together. So I feel like I kind of had those main two partners. I definitely played with everybody at some point, whether it's in a tournament or even a match. And then the college or the pro level is really interesting because, again, doubles is an afterthought for the most part on the pro tour. It is all about singles, and that is what people are like going to the tournaments for, putting all their eggs into that basket. A lot of players don't play doubles even. So, but for me, because I knew that was where I had my best chance of success and also just general enjoyment, I took it seriously in that I would always look at the list. You can see the list ahead of time of who's registered for the tournament. And I would either go through and like automatically know somebody who I knew was good at doubles or maybe had played college tennis. I did have a preference for girls who played college tennis, because I knew that they were trained in doubles, that they actually had practices that were focused specifically on doubles and like played a lot of doubles, which is not standard for girls who did not go to college, because again, they're just growing up playing singles. So I knew somebody from college tennis and saw she was playing, that kind of automatically, you know, triggered something for me. But I would literally just take out a piece of paper and I would write down every single person that I thought was decent. And if I didn't know who they are, I literally was going one by one, looking up every single person and then finding their like doubles ranking, but also digging into like their previous doubles results. Who did they play with? Like, how did they do? And then I would essentially come up with like my ideal partner list. And then at that point it was Facebook. Then I would just send Facebook messages.
That's awesome.
And then say, hey, I see you're playing Bielefeld 10K. Do you want to play doubles? And, you know, at that point too, a lot of people didn't know who I was. Maybe I was new. And then once you start to like show your results, then it's like, okay, people know that you have some decent doubles or you're a good doubles player. So it becomes a little easier to get paired up with those better players. That's the other thing, is like, I could win a tournament one week with a partner and it's like, great, okay, we did well. But then she's like, yeah, I'm going to China for my next tournament. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to Canada.
Dang it.
So yeah. And then every now and then we would kind of like, okay, hey, let's go together. And so there's like a brief period of time where Kelly Anderson, where we had partnered up for like a little bit. And it was kind of like, okay, great. Like, let's try to do the same tournaments together. But it's just tough because, again, it's like a lot of people are focused on the singles, and singles is how you get like into the tournament.
Okay. Got it. Where would you say is your favorite place to play? Does it matter, singles or doubles? Is it like, do you have a preference on playing doubles somewhere and playing singles somewhere differently?
Interesting. I mean, nothing that like comes to mind in the sense, because again, I mean, for the most part, you're like in and out of these places. I always tried to like go out and about, or, you know, stay a day or two. But like sometimes you finish a tournament, and especially if you went kind of deep in the tournament where like, okay, in doubles, you're in the quarters, semis, finals. By the time you finish, like that next tournament is starting. And so you're now on a train or a plane trying to just get to that next spot.
Got it.
For me, like, I mean, I definitely liked a crowd. So it's like, I just kind of thinking back in terms of like, where did I have big crowds? One of them was in Granada, Spain, but it's because I was also playing a Spanish player and they were all rooting for her, but that was still fun. And then I definitely don't love clay. And back to kind of like what we were talking about, right? I didn't grow up on clay. It's not conducive to my style of game. So definitely things in Europe on clay, not my favorite. Grass, I love, very much conducive to my game. Fast pace, I think definitely favors the person getting to the net, but there's not a lot of grass tournaments. It's pretty much Wimbledon, and then some of your like warm-up tournaments for Wimbledon.
And why is that?
Well, I mean, I think it's probably, I mean, there's just not a lot of grass available, but it's probably the most expensive surface to maintain.
Right.
Because you really have to have like a grounds crew that is, I mean, meticulously taking care of the court, right? Because it can't be like browning anywhere. It has to be like perfect grass. getting watered and trimmed, and then you're having to actually like do the lines every single time. So I don't know if that's the real answer. My guess is it's just probably expensive to maintain.
Yeah.
And like, right, when people are, the more they play on it, the more they're wearing it down.
Right.
So
And then it rains and then it's muddy and
exactly. So that's kind of my hunch, and it's just, so it's more, and then there's just not a lot available.
yeah. No, that makes sense. What would you say surprised you the most about the professional circuit?
I think how, I mean, this is where that isolating comes in, like how isolating and how lonely. But that part's not surprising in a sense because I kind of prepared for it. But I think what was surprising is how it's like competitive, meaning it's not like the girls are not really friendly because you're all competitors at the end of the day. And it goes to, it's like, even with my doubles partner who may be, okay, great, we're starting to like bond off the court. Well, we could very easily go to the next tournament and have to play each other in singles the first round. And for some of these girls, it is literally like life and death, right? They are actually trying to fight to get out of their countries. And so it's like, and I mean, and it's just competitive sport. It is a professional sport where everybody is trying to get as many points as possible to get their ranking up, to get to the higher levels of the tournaments, to make more money, to get their ranking up, etc. So it makes sense to me, but I think that was kind of tough, especially coming from college where it's like, you're a team, you're trying to build relationships and like support each other. And I remember my first couple tournaments, I had made some friends, but they kind of called it out, even said it was like weird. Because I would like go to their match and like watch them and say like, come on, let's go, you can do it. Like cheering for me. Like it's also like I've done with my matches and now I have 8 hours left in the day. So it's like, just kind of stick around. But, and then I even remember being like trying to get some girls to go out to dinner, and it was like kind of weird for them, especially the ones who had been on tour for a while. So yeah, I think that part was surprising, where it was just like, you're like, oh damn, I really I am here alone.
Yeah.
And it's like really truly just fending for myself. And so part of that fending for yourself is like also like, okay, trying to make relationships so that way it makes the travel a little bit more fun, or tournaments a little bit more fun.
Well, you're kind of in the same circles in, at different parts of the world, and it's nice to see familiar faces. That's interesting. I mean, it's not surprising though, but I guess that's interesting. What would you say, what finally told you it was time to step away the first time?
The first time, I mean, I had some kind of like external factors. My dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's when I was 12 years old. And so, yeah, he had that for a very long time. And if anybody knows anything about it, it's like a very steadily progressing disease. And so, and I was also his only child. And so the first time around, it just got to a point where he was not doing well. And so, because he actually ended up passing a few years later, but like he was in a care home, and at one point, living with my aunt, and he had fallen and broken ribs. And so I just kind of needed to go and I think just help him and at least transition into a care home and like make sure everything was good set up there.
Yeah.
And kind of at that same time, my younger sister, longer story, but so she was in special education, and this was right around the time that California had implemented this Casey exam. I don't think it exists anymore. I think that only lasted a couple years, but it was like the California high school exit exam. And it basically, like, no matter if you're in special ed, and she had like a 3.8 GPA in her special education classes, but basically in order to get a diploma, California was implementing this thing where everybody had to pass this test. If you didn't pass the test, you couldn't get your high school diploma.
Wow.
And my sister, her only dream and goal was she just wanted to go to the Academy of Art to study photography. She had a passion for photography. And for me, I was like, well, this is such bullshit that like someone who's done everything that's been asked of her, and also a disadvantage, is now not going to be able to go and study photography. It's not like she's trying to go and like do computer science or exactly. So that just didn't seem fair to me. And so while I was on tour, I was actually doing some research, and what I had found is that yes, it was implementing in her graduation year, but it actually didn't kick in until the calendar year. So if she had graduated basically by December 31st, then she would not fall subject to this rule and would be able to get her diploma.
Got it.
So that was part of it too. So I went back, I went to my mom's house. I actually was working at her business at 5 a.m. in the shipping department. And I would work till like 2 p.m. and then kind of do my thing, pick my sister up, and then I would study, because she had to pass 6 classes basically within like 3 months on top of already going to school. And so we just kind of put together a little boot camp, and it was a lot of flashcards, and yeah, so then I just became like my sister's little teacher for a little bit.
Well, it sounds like you were a caretaker to your family, your dad and your sister, and that's an awesome thing to do, to step away. And how did you, because I know for a lot of athletes during that time, did you rely on tennis? What did you rely on? Because that's a very heavy emotional thing to help be a caretaker to your family on all these different levels. What did you rely on to kind of help keep you mentally stable?
Good question. I mean, I think as you're talking, I would say, like, family for me is everything. And that's always kind of my first priority, my first value. And especially now I'm like a mom of my own 2 kids, and it's just like family is my number one thing. So I think it's just part of that, which is just like, what more motivation do you need than like being able to be there for a family member when they need you? I was like, I'm looking back, because I think I was like still playing tennis during that time, but I think for me, I honestly had kind of thought I was like done also. And like, to be clear, this was not like, oh my God, I was, thriving and climbing in my career and I had to like step away for these things. I think I was also mentally getting burnt out of being on the tour. I remember kind of getting to this point where I'm like, oh my God, I would love to sleep in a bed for longer than 4 days, or like be able to hang my clothes up in a closet.
Yeah.
So to be clear, there was also this kind of, I think I was kind of getting to a point where I'm like, okay, maybe I'm kind of done with this. And then you have these forcing functions and you're like, okay, cool. Like that makes sense. Yeah. So I think I'll to say too, it wasn't like I felt like I was stepping away in this like prime peak and like, now I have to stay in shape and how do I manage all this?
Yeah.
Kind of in some ways where I was like, okay, cool. This is like, I'm kind of going towards this new life. So I think looking back, I think I still played a little bit, where it's like with my friends who played, and I was still maybe kind of like exercising, but I kind of just got to a point where I was like, okay, like I'm done with tennis and this is my new life. And I was just trying to be there for family. And it's kind of fun in some senses to like, for the first time, live that life where it wasn't about waking up and achieving and getting better and stronger. Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about Teach for America?
Yeah.
And how that played a role in your life?
Definitely. I would say that's probably definitely one of my best life experiences, probably like right behind tennis. So part of that was, I grew up in Southern California and my mom was living in Northern California. And that is where my sister was living when I came to also help out. And again, being a family person, I just wanted to be, no matter what, close to my family. My father was still down in SoCal. So that part was hard because I was trying to figure out like, how do I balance time and like, where do I really create a home base? So I joined Teach for America and I remember applying. I actually applied when I was coaching some junior players. We were in Palm Springs, I think, for a tournament or something, because I was thinking about, okay, kind of what's next. And this is where I was like, yeah, I'm done with tennis. So like, what is next? And then I remember at one point thinking too, like, oh, maybe I want to go to grad school, or there's all these ideas. And so what I liked about Teach for America is it wasn't like this like commitment in a sense to a career. And that sounds kind of sad because some people do go into it of like, I'm going to be a teacher and this is how I started. But for me, it was like, cool. I loved playing teacher growing up. Like when I was with, my siblings, I was always like the teacher and sit down and we're going to do homework and here's my whiteboards. I think I always had that in me. And even at a young age, I was always really into like coaching my friends and like helping them with their games, or I just always had a little bit of like this coach teacher personality. So being a teacher, and then especially being able to do it in kind of like a low income, high minority city where I felt like I could just go and make an impact and not have to make this big commitment of like what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, seemed like the right thing. And also I was told it's very competitive to get into. And so there comes that competition where I was like, okay, like, let me see if I can get in. And yeah. And so I did 2 years in Richmond, California, and Kennedy High School. And it's a time I'll never forget. I was a special ed teacher by like title, which what that meant was I had basically like this caseload of about 35 kids that I was like responsible for and making sure essentially that they were getting the tools they needed, but like to be able to be successful in school. What I honestly found was, I'm not a psychologist, but many of my students didn't necessarily have learning disabilities or disabilities. They were kind of byproducts of a shitty system. And so it's like they either didn't learn to read. And so now here they are and they're juniors in high school and they still don't really know how to read. So they can't go into their regular classes because obviously how are you going to learn stuff if you can't read? So then it's kind of like, oh, okay, put them in special ed. Or they were behavioral problems. And so I mentioned that because I think that's kind of what I really liked and what I think is a skill that I've always had, which is just being able to like see people, relate to people no matter their background, or like I'm just very genuinely curious about people and like really love people. And I believe that is our whole sole purpose of being on this earth, is like our relationships and being there for each other. So in some ways it's like I wasn't really like a teacher, right, where I'm like having to come up with like the whole curriculum. And, yeah, exactly. It was more of my class. I did push-in style, where I would go into like their algebra classes and be a support teacher, and I would teach certain lessons along with the main teacher. But then we had this like tutorial class every day where my kids would come to, and it was like, you know, trying to help them to, okay, like what homework do you have? Like, how do we pass this class? But also not through the structure of like what I was told to do. It was for me just a lot of like life lessons. I like to teach life lessons and talk about that kind of stuff. And so right at this point, it's kind of clear, okay, a lot of my kids are not going to be going to college, right? So like, how do we prepare them to just hopefully graduate high school and then like leave and go do something and be a good byproduct, like citizen to the society? And so, yeah, I'm still friends with a lot of my students from Kennedy, some who weren't even like my students, but just like students at the school. I try to always be out there and like talking to the kids. I played pickup basketball or soccer. Like I would do a lot of just sports with them. So it was just a great time in my life. I think I learned a lot. And I feel like I got to make an impact. And yeah, like when we opened up Pickle Athletics, I had like 4 of my kids who are no longer kids, but you know, come and just support and be excited. And one of them's getting married next year, going to the wedding.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk pickleball.
Yeah.
That has become a thing that just it hit all of us. I mean, my husband loves playing pickleball, which I never thought that would be his jam. And actually quite a few people that I know love playing pickleball. And I'm like, I would have never thought you would like playing pickleball. I think we can all understand the transition of tennis to pickleball, but what is it about pickleball for you that you really were like, yes, this is where I want to now focus?
Yeah. Probably that it wasn't tennis. No, I mean, it's like, even so, like, right, you had asked the question too about like that first time around, knowing when it coming to an end. I think there's like more of, there's even the question of like that second time around. And the big part of that too, to transition to your question, is like, my body was starting to break down. I had like ruptured my plantar fascia. I'd already had shoulder surgery. Like things were just starting to hurt and kind of break down. Not to mention my bank account was like empty because it costs a lot of money to sustain yourself on the circuit. Because if you're playing in the lower level tournaments, you're not making a lot of money. So you go to collect your check, they take 25% of tax out on the spot, and you're like, cool, I maybe cover my hotel this week. And so luckily my mom was one of those parents that forced me to put every dollar I ever received from like birthdays and whatever into my savings account. But that's how I supported myself through pro tennis. I had a decent-ish sized savings account because of every dollar from the time I was born to I graduated college. And that depleted. And that was also kind of hard too, because I was like, man, every dollar just got saved up for that. And now it's gone. But also like how cool that I didn't spend it on kind of stupid shit and like got to travel the world. Yeah. So then I think I just kind of got to the point of like being a little bit burnt out. And so kind of why pickleball? Because I think I was just burnt out of tennis. It was my whole life. I also coached college tennis. I coached some like up and coming pro players and some juniors. I coached a lot of adults. It was just, it's a grind to be on the court all day and to be out in the sun and to like put that kind of impact on your joints. And I honestly think I just got to a point too where I was like, I don't want my whole life to be defined by tennis. I am so much more than that. That is a big part of me. Again, it's a big part of my story. It has made me. It has literally put me to where I am here today. But it's not my only thing. So yeah, then I really wasn't doing anything. I like became honestly pretty sedentary. I think it was hard for me to go to the gym and work out because, right, like I'm not training for anything anymore.
Yeah.
And then basically it was just like friends, people asking me to play. I was like, I'm not really into it. No, thank you. But really what happened, I had a baby and I needed to lose my baby weight. And again, I didn't really like going to the gym. I like to work out in the form of play. Somebody had reached out and said, you know, you want to play pickleball? And I was like, okay, let's do it. He had picked me up. We drove like 40 minutes. And I remember my wife kind of laughing, thinking it was so funny. She's like, you were driving 40 minutes to go chase this like wiffle ball. And I was like, yeah. And then I did. I got hooked. And then it's kind of like you go back, you'll hear some similar stories, right? I got good at it. And then even people like, oh, you're pretty good at it, And so you're like, oh, okay, this is interesting. But it got to a point, I was playing like 3-4 hours a day. And again, It was just fun to compete again. Yes, there was a lot of skills that translated directly over. But the other thing is too, is like, this is where I think a lot of tennis players go wrong, is like, you can't go into it thinking it's tennis, because it's not. It's a total different game. And so that was the thing that I think helped me, is I was able to try to kind of like throw that out the window and like really look, okay, what is pickleball? What is the strategy of pickleball? And it is, to me, like even maybe a little more cerebral and just like chess-like, where it's like you're really thinking multiple shots ahead. And the doubles. So again, they were back to like where I'm like, I have my partner. And so it just got to a point where it's like, I called it, where it crossed a lot of things off for me in one. Social, right after coming out of COVID, where like everybody was kind of struggling with that. And so I was able to meet a lot of new friends who are some of my best friends today. It was actual exercise, but like not too crazy hard on my body. Felt like I was working the mental side, where I'm like able to strategically think. So it was just kind of, it just crossed a lot off for me. And it was fun.
Yeah. I feel like it's also something that people who are older, into their older meaning 70s, it's something that I feel like a lot of people can do at an older age.
Yeah, totally.
Much like tennis, but I feel like I know a lot more people who are older who like playing pickleball.
In terms of like picking it up, right? It's like if you've played tennis your whole life, then it's like, okay, yeah, you can be like 70, 75 out there playing. But what's nice about this is like you can be 70, 75, whatever, 80, and like actually pick it up for the first time and be able to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what I think is beautiful about the game, is just like that low barrier to entry. And it's so cool because having the club, I kid you not, I see everything from like the kids come in, like, my kids 3 and 5. But like last night we had a 101 clinic, and there was like a 10-year-old and 11-year-old. And then I had a guy in here who was 95 years old come in for like an open.
That's awesome.
And we do a lot of birthday parties, and it's like I had, we did my daughter's 3-year-old birthday party. It wasn't really pickleball, a little different, but we had an 11-year-old like actual birthday party with like the kids coming and doing presents. And then I have had every other age birthday party you can think of from like the 70s, 65s.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about that. So you were like, you got back into pickleball. I love it. It's so fun. And then you're like, I'm deciding I want to open Pickle Athletics.
Okay.
Tell me about that.
Well, so there's like a little even gap in between there, which was, so I was getting good at it, and then I started playing pro pickleball. So I was actually like going to tournaments and competing on the tour. And I was doing decent, again, because it's like, there is singles, but I never played singles. I don't even practice singles. It's just playing with doubles, and was doing pretty decent. But the thing is, the tournaments, they're like every week, basically. And they're all over, right? It's not like all these pro tournaments are going to be sitting right here in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
There's like one a year, maybe 2 a year that's in Sacramento. But other than that, it's Arizona, Florida. It's all over the place. And so I had started to do that, where it was like, okay, I went to a tournament, in Arizona. Okay, we went down to SoCal. And I think it was 2 parts, which was like, one, I had this very clear moment of this tournament actually in SoCal, where I grew up playing tennis tournaments. And it was like the pro locker room, the pro room, which is just like the room that I've sat in 100 million times in my tennis career. But now it's like blocked off type thing. And it's just like, I don't know. I just had this moment where I looked around and like kind of taking in people and like thinking, and I was like, what the hell am I doing? It was just so kind of clear to me. And I had my 2 kids at home, one who cried as I was getting into the Uber to the airport, saying, don't leave. And I really was like, what am I doing? Like, I've done this lifestyle before. I don't need to prove anything to anyone. I don't want to live this lifestyle again of going to all these hotels and playing these tournaments and sitting around all day. So that was literally the last, I think that was the last, well, I maybe played one in between that was like Sacramento, but that was like the last real tournament I played from that moment. And then that same weekend is when my wife and I had a conversation, and she was like, look, I think it's so cool that you have found a passion again. And it's like the first time I've seen you really lit up. This whole pro thing, it's like, I work very intense job all week long. And now you're like gone, and we're having to get babysitters to cover and compensate. And then the weekend, now I'm having the kids kind of all by myself. And so it was really like say less. Like I'm like, I am completely on board and I agree.
Yeah.
But she was the one where she was like, okay, but it's cool. Like again, you found something. She's like, so is there something you can do business wise in pickleball? Because at that point I was in tech and was doing kind of what I thought I was supposed to be doing, but I wasn't really like soul filled. I do think, I think we all are programmed this way, but maybe we compensate, but like I very much am someone who needs to be just like living my life of like purpose.
Mm-hmm.
And even if that purpose is honestly like, yeah, waking up to play pickleball, whatever, but it's just like, I don't know, the checking in, checking out, and like working hard for someone else was not really turning me on. And so she was like, is there something there? And so we started to kind of just like brainstorm, and she is a product person. So it's like very much from the mindset of like, right, you find a problem and find a solution. And so just kind of started thinking a lot about that. And I think there was like 2 problems that we came up with that had an obvious solution, but one was in infrastructure. We keep hearing about how pickleball is the fastest growing sport in the country, but there's not enough courts to support it. You go to some of these public courts and like people are waiting hours to play. Mm-hmm. And so this kind of just idea of like, great, like provide more courts and provide more supply for the demand. But the second one too, which is something that I think sometimes even more so, which is just like, again, community and having in real life connections and getting people to actually be able to come together and like, yeah, sit down face to face or get onto a court face to face, but like being together and from all different walks of life. So yeah, I just think, with where we're at these days, whether you think about like in our country to everything like just AI, right? And I've been here, it's like even here we're through this computer. And so it's just like we really are lacking. And I think if we don't do anything about it, it's going to just continue to be more so like that face-to-face personal connection.
Human connection. Yeah. The lack of human connection. Yeah, I agree.
And so that's where we felt like, okay, cool. We can kind of create this pickleball club, but make it more than pickleball. Mm-hmm. Like we really invested a lot in our interior design and like the physical flow of how things work, because everything is kind of facilitated in mind with like being this social club as well, where yes, most everybody who comes through the doors are playing pickleball, like pickleball, whatever. But like, we have a gym, we have a sauna, we have yoga classes, Pilates classes, we had a wine tasting this week, we have a guitarist tomorrow night with like, for Valentine's, chocolate covered strawberries and champagne, a stand-up comedy. So like, we really are just trying to provide things where it's like, again, whether you're coming with a group of friends and it's your girls' night out, or you're forcing yourself to get out of the house to go meet new people, you can come here and there's something for you to do.
I love that. I absolutely love that. And that's in the Bay Area.
Yeah, it's in Oakland, in the Texas district.
And it is also one of the nation's first Black-owned and LGBTQ plus owned pickleball clubs.
Yeah, from what we know, I mean, definitely that combo, I would imagine so. But yeah, we think we're the only Black-owned pickleball club in the country.
Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. I know I'm the face here, but my wife is Black.
The website, I promise.
Yeah,
that's awesome. I think it's a perfect place to be. Okay, I have a couple more questions. If you could rewind the clock, what would you play differently? What sport would you play differently? It doesn't even have to be like what I was good at, what I was not good at. If you were like, man, I'd love to snowboard, or
I think honestly, no, I think the answer is easy for me, which is basketball. I often will. I think that because I really do think I was made for a team sport, and tennis is, kind of as we talked about the last hour, anything but in a sense. And so just the thought of like where it's like truly building this team camaraderie, where it's like you win and lose together for real. And so therefore, like your relationships off the court really carry on to the court and the performance of the team. That part is really exciting to me. And again, I'm 6 feet tall and like aggressive. And so I think that I just would have been a good basketball player. And for never having played, I think I have like a decent shot.
Yeah.
And I just love watching it. And I think it's like kind of one of the best sports for you to play in, like in terms of like your physical health and fitness, but like not like football where you have a chance, like, yes, you can get a concussion in basketball, but I just feel like it's like non-contact.
Yeah.
Yes, there's contact, but I think basketball.
Nice. All right. Cool. Okay. Last question, always my most important question to everybody. If you could eat one thing every day with no consequences, what would it be?
Oh, I love to eat. No consequences. Probably a chocolate molten lava cake.
That's amazing.
Like a perfect one, because I don't like when they're like dry and then
Huh?
it's not gushing out all the
Yeah,
chocolate. So I wouldn't waste it on that. But if it's a perfectly cooked one, like all that good gooiness inside.
I love it every day.
Yeah.
I know. Mine's a bagel and cream cheese.
I already kind of do that every day. My daughter loves bagels and cream cheese and then doesn't really finish it. So
I always love the good leftovers from your kids. That's amazing.
yeah.
Awesome.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Well, Kady, thank you so
My
much.
pleasure.
I'm looking forward to seeing Pickle Athletics just continue to build and build. And good luck with all of that. And thank you again for taking the time.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. It was really fun chatting with you.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you. Okay, Becky, there is a lot to talk about. This was a really fun episode, I think, because you get to see the transition of Kady kind of going from early on as a child and being thrown into playing at such a young age, and just the amount of stuff that she by 10 that she was already doing is crazy to me, having sponsors and everything. I just found that it gave me anxiety, but I feel like as a parent it gave me anxiety just listening to it, like, oh my gosh. But I did love that she said that it was very important to her that she still have her prom and still go and do all of these things, so she wasn't completely removed from that world. I just really appreciated her kind of breaking down of what next and going from this high intense elite level to what am I going to do with my life, and being very open and vulnerable about that. Was there anything that you found that kind of resonated with you?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just overall, like Kady as a person, super impressive. Like, her story was amazing. And what she's doing now is amazing. So I was really impressed by her whole story. I really liked, similar to you, I liked how she just put family first. Like when her family needed her when she was playing, and she kind of, took a step back and prioritize that a little bit. I respected that. And then also later on when she started dabbling in pickleball and also, went pro in pickleball, like her partner said, is this the right thing for us as a family? And I just like how she was thoughtful about that and put the family first once again. I like that she leads with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally agree. Again, like a perspective that I listened to, but I definitely didn't. That for me wasn't at the forefront of my mind. But now thinking about it, I think you're so spot on that getting to this high level of pickleball, and it's like I'm going and I'm traveling and doing all of this, and it's like for what,
Right.
and yeah, it's fun, but there's just a point where it's, you've got to prioritize what matters to you. And I think it's important for people, elite athletes, to kind of understand that there is a next level. And so there is a next, and just because you're going to be done with this doesn't mean that this is the end, that I've nothing left to give after this. What am I going to do? Go and do accounts payable? I don't know, maybe, but not that there's anything wrong with that, but totally different vibe. But I kind of wonder if there are, for the elite athletes, if they have a lot of guidance and help when they're kind of like, okay, this is kind of going to be it for me. This is going to be my last year. If there's anybody that's kind of helping to nurture who they are as a person, and, well, what are you looking for in the future? What do you think you are good at? What would you like to do? Because I just wonder if it's, I don't think that's in everybody who can just be like, oh, well, I've got this, and I've got, great support here with my wife, and I've got all these things, but I don't know that everybody has that. So it's kind of, how can you, do elite athletes have that transition? I mean, if you're like Steph Curry or what have you, you've got kind of all of that figured out, and you have people working and sending you things of what you can do. But I just wonder how people who are looking towards that next step in the next few years. Are there people there helping guide them through that? I don't know. I've not heard of anything like that before, but I appreciate that she had the insight and the ability to know that, oh, well, it's similar to tennis. So I can go and opening a small business is a scary thing too. And so to be able to do that with her wife is also pretty awesome. It's a lot of togetherness time though.
It is. Yes. Yes.
Maybe they get all their anger or their frustrations out on the pickleball court.
Yeah. But I think, she made it a point. She even said this, I believe she makes it a point to like live with purpose. So whatever she decides to do, it has to be purposeful and like fulfilling to her. I think she did do some sort of not office. I forgot what it was.
She was a teacher.
Okay. But I guess the work just wasn't fulfilling enough. It seemed like she just followed her heart and what's going to fulfill me, which is admirable because again, a lot of us, including myself, we're just working for these like soul sucking tech giants in this area, So
Yeah.
I commend her for like, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to lead with, what purpose.
What feeds my soul.
Right. Right.
Yeah. Well, and not a lot of people have that opportunity.
Yeah.
To be able to, or even just the mental maturity to be able to sit and be within themselves and be like, what feeds my soul? What's next for me? It's that I feel like it's really hard when you've got this job, you're working 40, 50, 60, 70 hours a week that, what feeds my soul is not working. And the weekends is what feeds my soul. And so to be able to find something that is fulfilling and have the ability to do that's pretty awesome, I would say. Yeah, I did love that. She was very open about her past with her family and what her wondering if I weren't playing tennis, would I be going down the same path of addiction and what my family had. And I'm kind of curious if that, there's not a lot of people who are going to be open like that. And hopefully there are people that have that in their lives that they're able to kind of have, like, I'd rather go and play sports right now than have to go back home because who knows what is happening. It could be, bad family life or bad neighborhood or whatever it is. But I think that's what sports is kind of all about, as why we did the first episode. It's about community, and why she started this business is about community and having people who don't have that community maybe at home going out and finding that in whatever sport that they're doing. And I think it's great that she's kind of opening that up to other people to be able to come and be a community in their business.
Yeah, that's a great point, actually. Yeah, she's now giving a space for people to come in and find their purpose or their, something that they love or discover that. And the business that she started, it's so needed in the Bay. Like they got it spot on. Like there's no other place like that. We need more places like that. I love that they combine like the pickleball with entertainment and social space plus wellness.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. Like that's what we need. We need
right.
more. So I was wondering, I wish I could ask her like what, are you guys going to expand, to other parts of the Bay? Are you going to franchise? How are you do you have plans to build this out?
Yeah.
I foresee it being pretty successful.
Yeah, no, it definitely is. I've talked to different people who have team parties that go over there. And I think it all just kind of comes back to people wanting to belong, and so finding this place like, oh, I don't know, I don't really want to go there by myself and just play. So they have reasons to go there other than pickleball, like, oh, I'll just go to this little social happy hour and have a drink or something, and then kind of get into that. But it's just an opportunity for anybody and everybody to find a reason to, in Oakland, to be able to go and have a space that is welcome to everybody. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
It is. I love it. I can't wait to go see it for myself.
Yeah. We'll have to go. I'm obviously not very good at pickleball. My depth perception is not great. So I've played And my husband doesn't like playing with me because I'm competitive, but I'm just not great at it. So I just will probably, you can compete against me and beat me. I think you would be really good at it, and you're competitive too. So
I'm like you. We're very competitive. Like, I refuse to lose. That's my saying. So yeah, and I dabble in tennis a little bit. I like that.
Yeah. See, you would crush me easily.
I don't know about that. I think you'd outrun me. You'd have
yeah, sure. But it's all probably about strategy too. It's about how you place it, and I don't know.
We're gonna have to go and
learn. We're gonna settle this once and for all, and we're gonna come back and let everybody know who.
Let's do it. Yes.
All right. Well, on that note, let's wrap things up. If Run Forest Run was all it took, we'd all be doing it. But when it actually works, it might look a lot like Cooper Tier. He's got the national title. Jeez Louise. He's got the national titles and the harder story of what it takes to stay in it. He's joining us next week. Thanks for listening to Sideline Society. And remember, there's always space for more people on the sideline. Bring someone into the game next time. We'll see you next week. Thanks, Becky.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.